Have you ever noticed something strange? Two people can be the exact same age, both retired, both living in the same neighborhood, yet one of them is traveling, gardening, lifting grandkids, and walking miles every week. The other struggles to get out of a chair, needs both hands to stand up, feels exhausted after carrying a few grocery bags. How is that possible? Most people think the answer is genetics. Others blame luck. But after spending more than 20 years working with older adults, I've learned that the answer is often much simpler. It comes down to what happens every single day, especially at breakfast. Because while most people are sleeping, something important is happening inside their bodies. Every night, your muscles become slightly weaker, and every morning, your body gets an opportunity to rebuild them. The problem? Millions of seniors unknowingly eat breakfasts that make rebuilding almost impossible. And over time, those tiny daily mistakes compound. 1 year passes, then another, until one day they wake up wondering where their strength went. Doctors have a name for this process. It's called sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is the gradual loss of muscle mass, muscle strength, and physical function that occurs with age. But here's the part most people never hear. Growing older doesn't automatically mean becoming weak. In fact, researchers have repeatedly found that lifestyle and nutrition play a massive role in determining how quickly muscle loss occurs. In other words, your breakfast may be influencing your future far more than you realize. Today's video is different. We're not talking about miracle supplements. We're not talking about expensive powders. We're not talking about secret anti-aging formulas. We're talking about foods sitting in ordinary grocery stores. Foods that can either support your muscles or quietly work against them. First, I'll show you 5 breakfast mistakes that many seniors make every morning. Then I'll show you 5 foods that may help support muscle strength, energy, balance, and healthy aging. And make sure you stay until the end, because the final food on the list has been a staple in traditional Asian wellness practices for centuries and might be the easiest addition of them all. Before we begin, tell me where you're watching from and how old you are. I love seeing comments from viewers all over the world. Now let's get started. Let's start with a food that has one of the best marketing teams in history. Breakfast cereal. Walk through any grocery store and you'll see boxes covered with promises. Heart healthy, whole grain, fortified with vitamins, excellent source of fiber, supports healthy aging. Sounds great, right? Unfortunately, many cereals have one major problem. They contain very little protein. And protein is exactly what aging muscles need most. Think of your muscles like a house under constant repair. Every day, little pieces wear down. Every day, repairs must be made. Protein provides the building materials. Without enough building materials, repairs slow down. Now imagine starting every morning with a meal that gives your body plenty of carbohydrates but very little protein. That's exactly what happens with many popular breakfast cereals. I remember a patient named Raymond. Raymond was 73 years old and had spent most of his life working as a commercial pilot. He had always been disciplined. He exercised regularly, never smoked, rarely drank alcohol. Yet despite doing many things right, he noticed his strength disappearing. The first signs were subtle. His golf swing lost power. Walking uphill became harder. Lifting luggage into overhead compartments felt different. At first, he blamed age. But during our conversations, a pattern emerged. Every morning for nearly 20 years, Raymond ate the same breakfast. 2 bowls of cereal, low-fat milk, orange juice. That was it. By lunchtime, he was hungry again. By afternoon, he felt sluggish, and his muscles never received the nutrients they needed first thing in the morning. When he gradually shifted toward higher protein breakfasts, something surprising happened. His energy improved. His balance improved. And 6 months later, he was back playing 18 holes of golf without feeling exhausted afterward. Now, was cereal solely responsible for his muscle loss? Of course not. But it was one piece of a larger puzzle, and for many seniors, it is a surprisingly important piece. Here's something many people don't know. As we age, our muscles become less responsive to protein. Scientists sometimes call this anabolic resistance. That means a breakfast that might have been sufficient at age 30 may no longer be enough at age 70. Your muscles need a stronger signal. More protein. Higher quality protein. Better timing. And breakfast is one of the best opportunities to provide that signal. Unfortunately, most traditional breakfast foods are built around carbohydrates. Toast, muffins, pastries, cereal, pancakes, waffles, these foods may taste good. They may even provide temporary energy. But they often fail to provide the nutrients aging muscles need. And that brings us to our next breakfast mistake. Now, before anyone gets upset, bread itself isn't evil. The issue is what happens when toast becomes the entire breakfast, especially white toast. Many seniors grew up eating toast every morning. It was simple, affordable, convenient, and familiar. But here's the problem. White bread is highly refined. The fiber has largely been removed. Many nutrients have been stripped away, and digestion happens quickly. That means rapid blood sugar spikes followed by crashes. Unfortunately, blood sugar crashes often leave people feeling tired, hungry, and searching for snacks before lunch. A retired accountant named Susan experienced exactly this. Susan was 69 when she came to see me. Her biggest complaint wasn't weakness, it was fatigue. She felt tired all the time. She needed afternoon naps. She avoided social events because she lacked energy. Every morning she ate toast with strawberry jam and tea. Nothing else. When I asked how much protein she consumed before noon, the answer was almost none. After gradually introducing protein-rich breakfast foods, her energy levels began improving. 3 months later, she joined a local walking club. 6 months later, she was taking weekend hiking trips with friends. The lesson? Sometimes the problem isn't what you're eating. It's what you're not eating. And for many seniors, what's missing is protein. Now let's talk about a habit that millions of seniors have every single morning. You wake up. You head straight to the kitchen. The coffee machine goes on. A few minutes later, you're sitting with a large mug of coffee. Maybe 2, maybe 3. And breakfast? That comes later. Or sometimes not at all. Now let me be clear. Coffee itself is not the villain. In fact, moderate coffee consumption has been associated with several potential health benefits. The problem arises when coffee replaces food, especially protein-rich food. After spending 7 or 8 hours sleeping, your body has gone through a prolonged fasting period. Your muscles have been without incoming nutrients all night. Morning is one of the best opportunities to begin replenishing those resources. But when breakfast gets delayed until noon, muscles miss out on valuable hours of recovery and repair. I remember meeting a retired police officer named Thomas. Thomas was 72 and had always been known as a strong man. For decades he worked patrol shifts, chased suspects, and maintained excellent physical condition. But retirement changed his routine. Instead of eating breakfast, he started drinking coffee all morning. By noon, he was hungry enough to eat almost anything. Most days he grabbed whatever was convenient, usually something processed, something quick, something low in protein. Over time he noticed changes. His legs felt weaker. His posture became poorer. His stamina declined. Simple household projects left him exhausted. At first he thought it was simply aging. But when we looked at his daily routine, breakfast stood out immediately. He wasn't fueling his body, he was stimulating it. There's a difference. Coffee can help you feel awake. It cannot provide the amino acids your muscles require. It cannot provide the nutrients needed for muscle maintenance. It cannot replace food. After making a few changes, Thomas started eating a protein-rich breakfast within an hour of waking. The results surprised him. His energy became more stable, his afternoon fatigue decreased, and he felt stronger during everyday activities. What changed wasn't the coffee. It was the fact that coffee stopped replacing breakfast, and that distinction matters. Many people assume that if they simply eat enough later in the day, everything balances out. Unfortunately, the body doesn't always work that way. Research suggests that spreading protein throughout the day may be more beneficial than consuming most of it at dinner. Think about it. If you eat very little protein until evening, your muscles spend much of the day without the building blocks they need. It's similar to waiting until nightfall to water a plant that's been drying out all day. Can it still survive? Of course. But is it ideal? Probably not. That's why many nutrition experts encourage older adults to prioritize protein at breakfast rather than treating it as an afterthought. Yet millions of seniors do exactly the opposite. And that brings us to our next breakfast mistake. If you grew up during the 1980s and 1990s, you probably remember something. Everything became low-fat yogurt, low-fat milk, low-fat snacks, low-fat desserts, low-fat everything. People were told that removing fat automatically made food healthier. But nutrition is rarely that simple. Healthy fats play important roles throughout the body. They help absorb certain vitamins. They contribute to hormone production. They support brain health. And they help create meals that feel satisfying. Unfortunately, many seniors still follow nutrition advice that became popular decades ago. One woman I worked with, Elaine, followed a low-fat diet for nearly 20 years. Elaine was 67 years old and took excellent care of herself. She walked daily. She attended fitness classes. She monitored her health carefully. Yet she couldn't understand why her strength kept declining. Every morning she ate a large bowl of oatmeal made with skim milk. She believed she was eating the perfect breakfast. After all, that's what she had been told. But when we looked closer, her breakfast was lacking sufficient protein and healthy fats. As we gradually improved the balance of her meals, she noticed something interesting. She stayed full longer. She had fewer cravings. And her energy became much more consistent throughout the day. Several months later, she told me she felt stronger than she had in years. Again, no single food created that result. But improving breakfast played an important role. Because healthy aging isn't about one perfect food. It's about creating better patterns. And breakfast patterns matter. Here's a mistake many seniors make. They focus entirely on weight. The number on the scale becomes the goal. But as we age, strength often matters far more than weight. Think about what actually affects quality of life. Being able to climb stairs, getting up from a chair, carrying groceries, walking confidently, maintaining balance, playing with grandchildren, traveling independently. Those things depend largely on muscle. Not just body weight. I've seen seniors lose 10 pounds and become weaker. I've also seen seniors maintain their weight while becoming dramatically stronger. That's why protecting muscle should be a priority. And breakfast is one of the easiest places to start. Now let's move on to the fifth and perhaps most overlooked breakfast mistake of all. This one is everywhere. Muffins, donuts, sweet rolls, Danish pastries, breakfast cakes. and dozens of packaged breakfast snacks marketed as convenient morning options. These foods are often loaded with refined flour and added sugar, but very little protein, very little fiber, and very little nutritional value. The result? A quick burst of energy, followed by a crash, then hunger, then more cravings. A retired school principal named Victor discovered this pattern firsthand. Victor was 74 years old. Every morning he grabbed a packaged muffin while reading the newspaper. It felt harmless. After all, it was only breakfast. But over the years, he found himself feeling weaker and weaker. His afternoon energy disappeared. His motivation declined. Even routine household chores began feeling difficult. When we reviewed his eating habits, breakfast was once again a major issue. His body wasn't receiving the nutrients it needed to maintain muscle. It was receiving mostly sugar. After switching toward higher protein breakfasts, Victor experienced a noticeable improvement in energy. Within a year, he was back volunteering, traveling, and participating in community events he had previously stopped attending. The difference wasn't dramatic overnight. It was gradual, consistent, sustainable, and that's exactly how most real improvements happen. Now, after hearing all of this, you might be wondering something. If these breakfast habits can work against muscle health, what should you eat instead? That's where things get exciting. Because the foods we're about to discuss aren't exotic. They're not expensive. You don't need a special membership to buy them. You can find most of them at nearly every grocery store. And the first one might already be sitting in your refrigerator right now. Before we move on, I want you to think about your own breakfast. Which of the 5 mistakes surprised you the most? Was it cereal? Toast? Coffee replacing breakfast? The low-fat trap? Or sweet pastries? Leave a comment below. I read as many comments as I can, and I always enjoy hearing your experiences. Now let's begin the foods that can help support strength and healthy aging. And we're starting with one of the most powerful breakfast foods available, eggs. Let's start with a food that has survived every nutrition trend imaginable. Eggs. For decades, eggs have been praised, criticized, praised again, and criticized once more. Yet despite all the debate, one fact has remained remarkably consistent. Eggs are one of the highest quality protein sources available, and when it comes to maintaining muscle as we age, quality matters a lot. Think of protein as a toolbox. Some foods provide a few of the tools your muscles need. Eggs provide all of them. They contain all 9 essential amino acids, which are the building blocks your body cannot produce on its own. That means when you eat eggs in the morning, you're giving your muscles exactly what they need to begin the repair process. A few years ago, I worked with a retired contractor named Michael. Michael was 71 years old and had spent most of his life building houses. He was used to being strong, used to solving problems himself, used to lifting heavy materials without thinking twice. But retirement brought changes. He wasn't as active. His muscles slowly began shrinking. His confidence started shrinking with him. When he first visited me, he complained about something that bothered him deeply. He couldn't carry a sheet of plywood anymore. For most people, that might sound insignificant. For Michael, it felt like losing part of his identity. During our discussion, I asked about breakfast. His answer surprised me. Most mornings he skipped it entirely. Some mornings he ate toast. Very rarely did he consume meaningful protein before lunch. We made several changes. One of the simplest was adding eggs to breakfast. Nothing complicated. 2 eggs, sometimes 3, combined with other nutrient-dense foods. Several months later, Michael reported noticeable improvements in strength and energy. He wasn't suddenly 25 again, but he felt capable. Strong, independent, and that matters. Because independence is one of the greatest gifts strength provides. Here's another interesting fact. Eggs also contain nutrients like choline, vitamin B12, selenium, and vitamin D. These nutrients support brain health, nerve function, and overall physical performance. So when you eat eggs, you're not just feeding your muscles, you're supporting multiple systems throughout the body. The easiest way to include eggs? Scrambled, boiled, poached, omelets, whatever method you enjoy most. The best breakfast is the one you'll actually eat consistently, and consistency beats perfection every time. Before we move to the second food, let's talk about a problem that affects millions of older adults: protein deficiency. Not severe deficiency, subtle deficiency, the kind that develops slowly, quietly, year after year. Many seniors simply don't realize how little protein they're consuming. Breakfast might contain 5 grams, lunch another 10, dinner perhaps 20. The total sounds reasonable, but for aging muscles, it often isn't. This becomes even more important because muscle loss tends to accelerate after age 60, and once significant muscle is lost, rebuilding it becomes harder. That's why many experts recommend prioritizing protein earlier in the day, not just at dinner, not just after exercise, but at breakfast. And the next food is one of the easiest ways to do exactly that. If eggs are one of the kings of breakfast protein, Greek yogurt might be the queen. The difference between regular yogurt and Greek yogurt is significant. Greek yogurt contains much more protein, often double or even triple the amount. That means a single serving can provide a substantial boost toward your daily protein needs. A retired teacher named Barbara discovered this by accident. Barbara was 68 years old and always considered herself healthy. She ate fruit every morning, drank plenty of water, stayed active, yet she constantly felt hungry. By mid-morning she was reaching for crackers, cookies, or whatever snacks were nearby. The issue wasn't a lack of food, the issue was a lack of protein. After replacing her usual breakfast with Greek yogurt, berries, and nuts, something interesting happened. Her hunger decreased. Her energy stabilized. And she found it much easier to maintain healthy eating habits throughout the rest of the day. Why? Because protein tends to be more satisfying than refined carbohydrates. It helps people feel fuller for longer. And that's especially helpful when trying to maintain muscle. One study found that higher protein breakfast improved feelings of fullness and reduced hunger later in the day. That's a powerful combination. Less hunger, more protein. Better support for aging muscles. Now here's a simple tip. Choose plain Greek yogurt whenever possible. Many flavored varieties contain large amounts of added sugar. You can always add your own flavor using fresh fruit, cinnamon, nuts, or seeds. That way you control the ingredients, and your muscles get the nutrients they actually need. Now let's talk about a breakfast food most people don't consider: turkey and chicken. When most people think breakfast, they imagine cereal, toast, pancakes, maybe eggs. Rarely do they think about lean poultry. But perhaps they should. Turkey and chicken are incredibly rich in high-quality protein. They also provide important nutrients such as B vitamins, zinc, phosphorus, and selenium. All nutrients involved in energy production and tissue maintenance. A former firefighter named Robert learned this lesson unexpectedly. Robert was 73 and loved traditional breakfasts: pancakes, toast, orange juice, the occasional pastry. Unfortunately, those meals weren't doing much for his muscles. Over time, he noticed his endurance declining. He became tired more quickly. Simple projects around the house took longer to complete. After reviewing his eating habits, we looked for ways to increase protein. One easy solution was adding leftover chicken or turkey to breakfast. At first, he laughed. Chicken for breakfast? But after trying it, he realized something. It worked. He stayed full longer, he had more stable energy, and his protein intake increased dramatically. Within months, he reported feeling stronger and more capable during daily activities. Sometimes the best solutions aren't complicated, they're simply different from what we're used to. A turkey and vegetable omelet, a breakfast wrap with chicken, a side of turkey slices alongside eggs. These simple additions can transform an ordinary breakfast into a muscle-supporting meal. Researchers who study long-lived populations often notice something interesting. The healthiest aging communities rarely rely on processed breakfast foods. Instead, their meals tend to focus on whole foods, protein sources, healthy fats, vegetables, legumes, nuts, seeds, foods that humans have eaten for generations, not foods invented in factories. That doesn't mean every processed food is bad, but it does suggest something important. When in doubt, choose foods your grandparents would recognize. That simple rule can eliminate many nutrition mistakes, and it leads us perfectly into our fourth muscle, supporting breakfast food. Few foods have become as popular over the last decade as avocado. And for good reason. Avocados are packed with nutrients. Healthy fats, fiber, potassium, folate, vitamin K, vitamin E, and numerous beneficial plant compounds. Now here's something many people overlook. Muscle health isn't only about protein, it's also about creating the right environment for muscles to function. That includes hydration, electrolyte balance, nerve function, and recovery. Potassium plays an important role in all of these areas, and avocados contain a surprising amount of it. I once worked with a retired nurse named Carol. Carol was 70 and frequently experienced muscle cramps, especially at night. She also struggled with fatigue and poor recovery after physical activity. Her diet wasn't terrible, but it lacked nutrient-dense whole foods. One of the changes we made was adding avocado several times per week. Not because avocado is magical, because it provides valuable nutrients that many people don't get enough of. Several months later, Carol reported fewer cramps and improved overall energy. Again, avocado wasn't the only change, but it became part of a larger strategy that helped her feel better. And that's the key. Healthy aging rarely comes from one single food. It comes from stacking good habits, one on top of another, over time. Now we arrive at the final food, the one many traditional wellness systems have valued for centuries, nuts and seeds. Small, simple, easy to overlook, yet incredibly powerful. Almonds, walnuts, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, each contains a unique combination of nutrients that support overall health. Healthy fats, minerals, fiber, plant compounds, and even protein. A retired gardener named Eleanor became one of my favorite examples. When I met her, she was 75 years old. She loved gardening, but struggled with stiffness and low energy. She wasn't interested in complicated diets. She wanted simple solutions. One of the easiest changes she made was adding a handful of mixed nuts and seeds to breakfast every day. Some mornings she mixed them into Greek yogurt. Other mornings she sprinkled them over oatmeal. The change was small, but it was sustainable. And sustainable habits are the ones that matter most. A year later, Eleanor was still gardening, still active, still independent, and still eating her morning nuts and seeds, because she found something that worked for her lifestyle. And that's what ultimately matters. Not finding the perfect diet, finding a better one. Now that we've discussed the 5 foods that can support healthy muscle aging, the next question becomes obvious. How do you actually put them together? Because knowing what to eat is one thing. Building a routine you can follow for months and years is something else entirely. And here's where many people make a mistake. They try to change everything overnight. They throw away half the food in their kitchen. They create complicated meal plans. They buy expensive supplements. Then, 2 weeks later, they're back to their old habits. I've seen it happen hundreds of times. The seniors who get the best results usually do something much simpler. They make one small improvement, then another, until healthy eating becomes automatic. Let's start with a few simple breakfast combinations. Breakfast option 1. The Strength Bowl 1 serving of plain Greek yogurt, a handful of mixed berries, a tablespoon of chia seeds, a handful of walnuts or almonds. That's it. Simple, fast, minimal preparation, yet packed with protein, healthy fats, fiber, and nutrients. For many seniors, this breakfast takes less than 5 minutes to prepare, and unlike sugary cereal, it often keeps them satisfied for hours. Breakfast option 2, the classic power breakfast, 2 or 3 eggs, half an avocado, a few slices of turkey, fresh fruit on the side. This breakfast provides protein, healthy fats, vitamins, minerals, and long-lasting energy. More importantly, it provides your muscles with the building blocks they need early in the day. Breakfast option 3, the easy morning wrap whole grain tortilla, scrambled eggs, turkey, avocado, a handful of vegetables. Wrap it up, and you're done. Many seniors tell me this becomes one of their favorite options because it's filling, portable, and easy to prepare. Breakfast option 4, the retiree's favorite A-bowl of oatmeal. But here's the difference. Instead of treating oatmeal as the entire meal, use it as a foundation. Add Greek yogurt. Add nuts. Add seeds. Add berries. Now you've transformed a carbohydrate-heavy breakfast into a balanced meal. That's the secret. Not eliminating foods, improving them. Here's the biggest mistake people make after watching videos like this. Let me tell you something important. Some people will watch this entire video. They'll nod their heads. They'll agree with everything. Then tomorrow morning, they'll eat exactly the same breakfast they've been eating for 20 years. Not because they're lazy, not because they don't care. Because habits are powerful. Humans naturally return to what's familiar. That's why knowledge alone rarely creates change. Action does, even small action. You don't need to overhaul your life tomorrow. You don't need a perfect meal plan. You don't need to count every gram of protein. You simply need to make one better choice. Then repeat it again and again and again. That's how strength is built, not only in the gym, but in life. The 7-Day Strength Breakfast Challenge here's something I'd like you to try. For the next 7 days, make one commitment. Eat a protein-rich breakfast every morning. That's it. 7 days. Not 7 months. Not 7 years. Just 7 days. Include at least one of the foods we discussed today. Eggs, Greek yogurt, turkey, chicken, avocado, nuts, seeds. Choose whatever combination works best for you. Then pay attention. Notice your energy. Notice your hunger levels. Notice how your body feels. Notice whether you're reaching for fewer snacks. Notice whether your afternoons feel more productive. Many people are surprised by what happens, not because their lives transform overnight, but because they finally begin giving their bodies what they've been missing. Let me tell you why independence matters more than any number. On A scale earlier, we talked about muscle loss. But the real issue isn't muscle. It's independence. Think about what most seniors truly want. They want to stay in their own homes. They want to travel. They want to spend time with family. They want to avoid becoming dependent on others. They want to continue living life on their own terms. Muscle plays a major role in all of those things. Every time you stand up from a chair, every time you carry groceries, Every time you walk across a parking lot, every time you climb stairs, your muscles are working for you. The stronger they remain, the easier life becomes. That's why preserving muscle isn't vanity. It's practicality. It's freedom. It's quality of life. Here's a story I'll never forget. Several years ago, I met a gentleman named George. George was 76 years old. When he first came to see me, he wasn't concerned about appearance. He wasn't worried about building large muscles. He had one goal. He wanted to be able to lift his youngest granddaughter. That's it. Every time she visited, she ran toward him, and every time he struggled more than before. That broke his heart, because he knew she wouldn't stay little forever. We talked about nutrition. We talked about movement. We talked about protein. We talked about consistency. Nothing extreme. Nothing complicated. Just better habits. 1 year later, George returned for a follow-up visit. The first thing he did was pull out his phone. He showed me a photograph. There he was, standing in his backyard, holding his granddaughter above his head, both of them smiling. Neither of them knew it at the time, but that picture represented something much bigger than muscle. It represented capability, confidence, independence, moments that matter. That's what healthy aging is really about. Not six-pack abs, not fitness magazine covers. The ability to continue living your life. Let's talk about the truth about aging. Let's be realistic. None of us are getting younger. No breakfast food can stop time. No diet can make you 25 again. But healthy aging isn't about stopping aging. It's about slowing unnecessary decline. It's about preserving what you have. It's about giving your body the best chance to stay strong. And that starts with everyday decisions. The foods you eat, the activities you choose, the habits you repeat. Those small decisions compound over time, just like interest in a savings account. A little today, a little tomorrow. Then suddenly, years later, the difference becomes enormous. Your action plan starts tomorrow morning, so here's what I want you to do. Tomorrow morning, choose one thing from today's video. Just one. Maybe replace cereal with eggs. Maybe add Greek yogurt. Maybe include a handful of walnuts. Maybe swap processed breakfast meats for turkey. Maybe add avocado. Just one change. That's all. Because one small improvement consistently practiced beats a perfect plan that never gets started. Then come back in a few weeks and ask yourself, do I have more energy? Do I feel stronger? Am I moving more confidently? Am I staying fuller longer? The answers may surprise you. Remember this, muscle loss is not something that happens in a single day, which means rebuilding healthier habits doesn't happen in a single day either. Give yourself time. Give yourself patience. Give yourself consistency. Your future self will thank you. And if you've made it this far in the video, I want to know something. Which breakfast food are you going to try first? Eggs? Greek yogurt? Turkey? Avocado? Or nuts and seeds? Leave a comment below and let me know. I read every comment, and I genuinely enjoy hearing your stories. If you found today's video helpful, consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you don't miss future videos about healthy aging, nutrition, strength, and longevity. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take care of yourself, take care of your muscles, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.